You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Isaiah Frizzelle.
How's it going?
Isaiah, please tell me a little bit about yourself and what do you do professionally?
So, a little bit about myself. Well, I am originally from New Jersey. I'm an East Coast boy, and I work in TV and film production, but I'm also a personal trainer, and I produce my own podcast, the Bird Brain Podcast. And currently, I'm based in LA and just doing the artist thing, living my best life.
So personal training. Now, I'm a big fitness enthusiast. Now,
hmm
what types of personal training do you work with? Because personal training, a lot of people don't understand, is it's not just physical, it's also mental too.
Yeah. Well, for one, I have my NASM certification in standard personal training, but I also have two specializations. One is in behavioral specialization, and the other one is fitness and nutrition. So I do work kind of with the mental aspect of exercise and getting into the kind of like the psyche of how my clients personally, how they operate and what their focus is. And, with that comes what they're eating and everything like that. So yeah, like you said, there are levels to personal training, but yeah, I have a little bit more intentionally just because I understand how mentally exercise makes me feel. So it was important for me to incorporate that into my studies and my certifications.
I think a lot of people miss out when you try and explain the best aspects of working out or getting in shape because they're like, oh, you're trying to confine them a certain way. You're trying to make them change. It's like,
Yeah.
no, once you start working out, you realize that it's a major benefit to your life. It doesn't mean going to the gym 24/7 like myself,
Right.
but it means just taking the time to change maybe your eating habits because your nutrition is all linked down to how you feel overall, from your
Exactly.
physical reaction in your body to your emotional everything. It's all linked to food, and it's all linked to also the amount of energy you expend.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
what's what's your thoughts on fasting?
You know what? I mean, fasting is one of those things I feel that kind of gets old pretty fast. There is a
It's bullshit. That's what I think.
yeah,
I do it sometimes like if I'm doing like a hard cardio day or something, I'll wake up in the morning and run like 10 miles on the treadmill.
sick.
It's effective for that, okay? But I know as soon as we get off that treadmill,
Yeah.
I am going to my kitchen and if you're in my way, you're dead. Like food
Yeah.
is like
Well, you said you're into fitness, so what's your background? Are you like an athlete or do you just do it for life? What's
not
what's
even
your
close, man. I've said it in the podcast
Yeah.
before, but I got picked on really bad through high school for being
hmm
overweight, even though I really wasn't overweight, but it was more like my buddies, people I thought that were close to me, they were all kind of big guys, but they would all call each other fat, and they would
Yeah.
pick up on me. I was the smallest of the bunch, so it ended up
Okay.
getting to the point where I isolated myself from everybody, and I found the gym. My dad signed me up my junior year on December 30th,
Okay.
the day before my birthday. And he goes, hey, I'm going to pay this for you. You know, the same thing I did with your brother when he joined wrestling. If you want to stick with it, stick with it. Because I was all in the video games. He didn't expect me to take it to where I have now. I
Yeah.
have gone literally every single day to the same gym. I go on Christmas, everything, work
hmm
out 2 to 3 hours every single day for the past 7 years now.
Every day?
I have not missed one.
What?
I
That's
swear to
impressive.
you. You can ask anybody in my family. But it is. It's not to gloat. It's not to show off. I
Right.
have pulled shit out of it. I
Right.
can't take I mean, I get offended when I take my shirt off just to get in the shower. I
Yeah.
developed a bit of body dysmorphia,
Of
and most
course.
like most like bodybuilders, they get a form of eating times, a type of
Yeah.
disorientation or disoriented view with food. I'm like that as well.
Same.
When it comes to gym time, I'm pretty sure I messaged you this. What did I tell you exactly? I said, what time am I unavailable from?
Oh
3 to
yeah.
6 p.m.
3 to 6 p.m. You're like you're in a gym for a few hours. I was like, all right, damn, he's committed. All right, cool. It's like that's a decent amount of time.
Yeah, that's my stick though. Like it sucks, but it's something I've been working hard to progress past. But I've seen people look at me like, wow, you're so committed, you're so like this. I'm like, dude, it's like checking my phone in the morning. It's just there's no not going to the gym. I tried taking a day off once, it
Yeah.
doesn't fucking happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a long road. A lot of people don't understand that, even the most physically fit and even the people that have a six pack, I try and when I put up a picture of myself or something, I just show people this is fucking 80% nutrition, 10% lighting, and 10% fucking working out.
Exactly.
Like it's all from the lights of the gym. It's all, it's all pictures. Like I'm not going to have that six pack forever. Watch, as soon as I go home and eat a meal, the six pack's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a process, and I think it's like it's important for people to kind of understand and be honest with themselves. Because for me, I don't necessarily go to the gym every day. I go I'd say about 6 times a week, and I force myself to kind of take a day off. And usually, even on my days off, I'm doing something. So it's one of those things where I have trouble taking a break in life, period. So I've been kind of forcing myself to be better about that. Sometimes just not doing anything and letting that be what it is. Yeah, because it's like you kind of run yourself into the ground, and I have a tendency to burn out. So I make it a point to have a day where I can just not either think or, not go too crazy in terms of the gym. Because when I go to the gym, it's therapy for me. Like you said, that's my spot. And
it's a stress relief, man.
It's a big stress relief. It's a big stress relief. And if you're doing it properly, it's like you stop focusing so much on the vanity of it and just, I guess, understand what it makes you feel like, how it.
You get those seasons when people come into the gym, such as like, towards the end of like, the year, kind of around Christmas time, you see people start going to the gym for their New Year's resolution.
Exactly.
And they'll last about 2 weeks in and then they give up.
Yep.
Then you'll see people before summer and a little bit after summer before winter starts hitting.
Yep.
And those are the prime time you see a lot of people in the gym. I remember this one girl bending down in yoga pants in front of me, wearing makeup, like something you shouldn't be doing when you're supposed to be working out and focusing on yourself.
Right.
The one thing I hate about the fucking gym is that it literally has mirrors everywhere. So it's showing you everything. You're constantly looking at yourself. So for me, I'm judging myself constantly. I'm like, oh, they chalk up to women doing it. I'm like, no, I do it all the time because I'm a bit. Yeah, so she's bending down in front of me while I'm bench pressing, and I'm looking down like at the corner of this mirror, and it looks like I'm kind of staring at her, but I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And she turns around, she says, "Excuse me, can you stop staring at my ass?" And I said, "Honey, I'm looking at myself in this shirt and seeing how my fat is stuck onto like this part is a target I need to focus." And I just started explaining everything that was going in my head, and she was like, "Whoa, like what's wrong with you?" I was like, the last person I'm here judging or looking at is yours. If anything, I'm not looking at your ass. I'm looking at my ass. So I need to get to hit the spots.
Oh man. Yeah, it's a thing. I think everybody is a little bit it's a way to critique yourself. Like you said, there's mirrors everywhere, so how can you not look at yourself? A lot of times I will look in a mirror to make sure my form is right, especially when I'm hitting legs, because one false move, you mess up your back, you mess up your knees. So for me, it's like I'll check the mirror and I'm like, all right, am I doing this right?
Dude, I almost killed myself doing calf raises. I'll admit to that.
See? Yeah.
I mean, I forgot to I was on the Smith machine doing calf raises.
Yeah.
So I put 3 plates of 45 on each side, and I'm like, all right, I'll chalk this up real quick. I ended up working up to the point I had 4 plates on each side.
Yeah.
Now, that sounds like a lot, but on a Smith machine, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So it's calf raises, and your legs are really fucking strong. A lot of people don't understand. I'm
Exactly.
135 pounds or 135, maybe 140 pounds around that area, but
Okay.
I'm 3% body fat.
Nice, dude.
So yeah, but it's kind of like it sucks. You're cold all the time when it's 90 fucking degrees. You're like, why are you wearing a jacket, bro? It's 90. I'm like, because I'm fucking cold.
I'm
And they're like, oh, okay.
freezing.
But it's crazy because like I remember I forgot to put the clips up on the Smith machine to kind of stop the bar from dropping all the way down. And I
Mhm.
was doing the calf raises, and next thing I know, my calf just immediately gives out. Like the muscle just turns into jello. It
Oh,
slammed so fast behind me, brought me down. Like, like folded me. Like if you ever see someone that their legs get taken out from under them, it
yeah.
just, I was lucky that it like, I flipped it in time to stop it at like a low point without taking it all the way to the ground. But I was like, whoa. And I had a weight belt on. I took the weight belt off and I
Yeah.
just started walking. I was like, damn, I almost just died. And people are like, yeah, like that's close. I mean, have you ever had a gym like kind of training or whatever you were doing where you
Mhm.
almost might have actually seriously hurt yourself?
Yes, there has been one time I'll never forget. I was bench pressing, and I wasn't benching a lot. I was, it was a weight I could, sustain. But prior to, literally before I had left for the gym, I had fell down my stairs and I landed on my rotator. Like I put my hand down and braced myself, and it just aggravated my rotator cuff that I had already injured a few years prior. So when I went to the gym, that was aching, and I was a little bit timid about lifting because I'm like, oh damn, my shoulder feels a little wonky. I should be careful. So I just put two plates on, 225 for the bench, and my spotter, at one point he wasn't looking, and oddly enough, not the shoulder that I messed up, the other side, my right hand had gave out, and 225 just came down on my chest, and for about 2 weeks it just felt like there was a divot in my chest, and it ached for a while, and I was like,
You
holy
got that
shit.
indentation. You got that,
Yeah,
most people with their chest out, but you feel like you just had an elephant sit on your chest.
exactly. I was freaking out. I was like, I wonder if I broke something. I mean, my breathing was fine and everything like that, but it just hurt for quite some time. And I was like, holy shit. It scared me. And I think my biggest scares were with bench pressing. That's why I don't like bench pressing too much. It's like I have a big chest, but at the same time, I hate chest days. Not my favorite.
I hate deadlifting. I won't
I love
deadlift
it.
anymore. It's my back's up. I got hit by a jet ski the summer of my senior year.
Yeah.
So my back's completely like it's when I pick stuff up, you're like, you have to shit. I'm like, no,
Yeah,
this
my
is how I
back
pick
hurts.
things up. But
Wow.
so I just was like, I don't really need it. I can get my leg muscles up doing legs. I can get my back muscles doing lat pull downs or doing
Hmm.
rows or something. But
Okay.
I remember. So when you work out every day for 7 years, your times for the gym start to change.
Yep.
So I've worked all the way around the clock 24 hours. I've gone to the gym at 2 o'clock in the morning, which was when I experienced a very scary incident with bench pressing. So there was a
Yeah.
winter about a couple of years ago where I didn't have a job for a good couple months. So
Hmm.
I just started working out twice a day. And
Okay.
like today was my first day off. I worked out twice today. Went in the
Yeah.
morning, did a fasted cardio session, and then went to the gym and did legs.
Yep.
Now, so when I was bench pressing, all right, it was 2 o'clock in the morning, so there's like nobody at the gym. There's like one dude in there, just kind of quiet working out. I'm in a 24-hour fitness,
Okay.
so it's the best thing. You get to see some either interesting people or
Yeah.
really interesting people at two
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Someone's trying to sell steroids,
Yeah.
but I'm bench pressing two plates on each side, and this is like my max. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm like getting it, like not even thinking, just worrying about the lift, not even worried about it falling on me.
Yeah.
And right up in my upper part of my chest, near
Hmm.
where like the tendon, where the shoulder kind of connects into,
Yep.
snapped. The muscle just snapped, and I
Holy
feel
shit.
this full weight just come straight down on my chest. And it's 2 o'clock in the morning. only savior to my life was
Mhm.
that I did not have clips on the weights. So I was able to maneuver to one side and knock the
Let it
weights off,
fall.
and then the bar would flip to the other side. So
Okay.
I then after that, dude, I was so pumped. I ran around the gym 10 times and got right back to lifting. But like I was like, oh, my chest hurts. I'm gonna do legs. I came back not even 8 hours later in the
Yeah.
morning, like during like kind of like a little bit before lunch,
Yep.
and I see someone I talked to on my podcast. His name's Chuck Gokenauer. He's a bodybuilder, and
Nice.
I was telling him, I was like, "Hey man, like I was here last night or whatever," and he goes, "Why is your chest and arm taped up?" And I'm like, "Oh, I had fucking electrical tape wrapped around my biceps, sticking it around my back to my chest, so I couldn't move my arm away from it because it hurt so bad." That's how much
Wow.
I would go batshit crazy on.
Wow. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
you got to be careful. I think it's like I tell my clients, I'm like, I always tell them, I say, look, don't lift with your ego. I'm like, you lift to lift another day, and it's like you build up to certain things. Obviously, you be careful. Shit happens. Things are bound to happen no matter how much of a professional you are. There are still those isolated incidents where things can just go sideways quick. But yeah, otherwise, it's like, even the younger kids, especially like the younger dudes, are like, yeah, I want to bench 315. I want to squat this. I'm like, look, let's be realistic. It takes a while to get up to that. So don't go in there on the first day of working out or the first week and think that, yeah, I'm going to lift this much, because you're going to fuck yourself up. And then you're not going to be able to lift at all. And it's like, for what? Like, what is it worth? You know? Even now, like I've dumbed down the weight, even with squats, my knees, they just ache. So I just take the weight off and I start from scratch, or I just find other ways to lift and still get an effective workout, because I'm just like, as you get older, it's not worth doing certain things. And it's like, you got to understand, why am I trying to lift this weight? Is it because it's going to help me improve, or is it just me wanting to see something out of curiosity or ego?
I find myself kind of changing, like the first of all, not only my compassion for people from when I started, where I was like trying to isolate myself from everyone, working out really early in the morning just because I didn't want to interact with anybody,
Mm-hmm.
to the point where I'll go like around, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. and I'm sitting there just associating with people,
Yeah.
just really not really sitting there talking the whole time like the guy. I'm pretty sure we all know the gym person that just sits on their cell phone. But if I
Yeah.
see a new person come in, I'm not the type of guy that's gonna like, I'm not gonna get in their way. But if I see them struggling, I'm gonna say like, hey,
Help them
it's
out.
easier to get it like this.
Yep.
I see the kids coming that were my age when I first started going that are brand new, and you could tell they're new. They're wearing a tank top. Look, if you wear a tank top in the gym, you're an asshole. I don't
Yeah.
care.
I wear a tank
Listen,
top in the gym.
God damn it. No, my muscles are really fucking ripped, and I
Yeah.
like. All right, so I'll explain this. You
Mm-hmm.
can wear a tank top, but don't
Yep.
be a dick about it.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
Because every time I go to my gym, I swear there's always one teenager in there wearing a snapback, and he's flexing really hard with his thin ass arms. I have
Uh-huh.
looks like a baseball shoved under my arm, but I cover that shit up with a jacket, because any bodybuilder, any type of
Yup.
person you notice in the gym, they're wearing a lot of fucking layers. You're like, dude, you're big, you're jacked. Why are you wearing layers? Because they can't see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They know how big they are, but they're thinking about the fat on their body. They're thinking about so many different things. It's also why they drive small cars. A lot
Yeah.
of bodybuilders drive really small, compact cars. They wear
Interesting.
sweatpants. They wear these types of things because the most realist kind of explanation I got from it was when I talked to my bodybuilding kind of manager. His name is Chuck.
Okay.
He was like, Robbie, I'm gonna give you this pamphlet so you can join bodybuilding. I'm like, no, like taking my shirt off in front of people, are you nuts? He's like, dude,
Yeah.
like look at yourself. Like, you work out twice a day. This
Yeah.
is a religion for you, basically. Which
Yeah.
it is a form. It's like the Church of Metal. And I'm sitting there just telling him like I can't do that. And he was like, I asked him one question. I was like, I suffer from this. Have you ever had this types of thoughts? He goes, you think I don't look in the mirror and notice how I'm 60 years old now and my body doesn't look like it did back in the day when I was in my prime? He's
Right.
like, you think I don't think about that every single day? You think that doesn't bother me? But I've learned to move past it because I understand you can't confine yourself to the gym. And hearing that, it resonates with me, but it's something I'm like, I still can't actively kind of promote. I've been trying, but hearing that, and I started talking to other bodybuilders, big guys. I was like, so like you're big. Why are you worried about like, what you look like? Why are you wearing big jackets? And like, dude, it's bodybuilding syndrome. Like we
Yeah.
develop it because either someone was picked on or someone became a like an unhealthy addiction to the gym,
Yeah.
hypergymnasium and I was like, damn, like there are people out there that look like gods but suffer emotionally to a level where they need to focus on that. And that's when I started training my brain in the gym as well. While I
Yeah.
was doing push-ups or pull-ups, whatever, I had a book, and then eventually it turned into podcasting where, working out 3 hours, it gets boring if you don't have music, and you can only listen to the same song so many times before you're like, all right, fuck it, I don't want to hear, watch me whip,
Right.
watch me
Watching
nay.
Day Day.
So I'm like, let me turn on podcasting. And next thing you
Right.
know, bam, I had podcasting and Joe Rogan. That was a big influence. And now I've branched off into other ones, but I've listened to every single one. Is the length of a Joe Rogan was my workout.
Nice.
So I got to learn, and I realized that there was this thing inside of us, our mental capacity, that we needed to work on as well, just like a muscle.
Yep. Yep. It's funny because I I'm the same for a long time. I would cover up as well because there's, like you said, that body dysmorphia, or feeling like there's so much fat and you have all these things you have to cover. And a friend of mine who I work out with, she's a trainer, but she also used to lift competitively. She just knocks some sense into my head constantly. She's like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" She's like, "You really have to take a good look at yourself." And she was like, "You really have to start appreciating how hard you work, and not necessarily for anyone else, but get in the habit of kind of like when you think about a flower, it's like instead of contracting, kind of expanding a little bit more and just doing it for you, because it's like fucking play small for what? You're who are you really appeasing? Or it's like you're trying to satiate the opinions of other people, and it's like fuck them. Like you're working for this, you're working for this body. Let it be something that you're proud of. And it's like I understand, too, wearing shirts, wearing big shirts. I personally sometimes I like wearing big t-shirts to the gym. Like I don't want to expose certain things. I'll never wear
It just
sweatpants just
sucks.
because.
It sucks when you're trying to bench press and you have a big shirt on. Next, it's getting stuck under your ass, and you're trying to
Yeah.
bench press. You get up and it's pulling you back down. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's a situation. So it's like there are certain days I wear like certain clothes, and I'm kind of meticulous about what I wear and why I wear it. But I've just gotten in the habit of just seeing myself a little bit different, and that's kind of what my podcast is about too. It's like you go through life because of your past experiences, just downplaying who you are or thinking less of, who you are and what you work for, just because there's some kind of imprint that somebody left on you like years ago. And that still is very present in how you operate now. And it's like, you just get to the point where it's like, fuck that. I'm going to be proud of who I am and who I work to be, especially if I'm working to be a decent person. You know what I mean? It's like, hide for what? Fuck all of that. I had
Yeah,
that
but
process
see,
today.
the thing is, it's like it's easier said than done for a
It's
lot of
a
people.
lot
And
easier, yeah, said than
it's
done.
it's like I've helped people lose weight. I've helped people that bullied me through school come to me now because now, we're all 21, 22 in that age, and they're all experiencing heavy alcohol and partying. They don't have the high school body they did. They stopped doing sports,
Right.
and now kids are having kids and stuff. And they're literally like, can you help me? I really need help. And they'll cry to me, and I'll tell them I will give them the tools and the ideas that worked for like, it's going to work for you. I can give you what I did, but you can't
It's
follow
not gonna
that
work for
because
you,
no
right?
one can do what I did.
Right.
And I tell them, I'm like, I harbor no hatred for you. I'm glad that I've been able to take that pain and turn it into something,
Yep.
that was beneficial to my life. This is my stress relief, much like we were saying before.
It's
When you
therapy.
grab that fucking weight, dude, when you have that in your hand and
Yeah.
you're able to lift that, or,
Yeah.
just run. your body's releasing chemicals, endorphins are getting raised when you work out. When you get, what they call a runner's high.
Yeah, I was just talking about that.
Like, fuck, I remember going to the gym like, oh my God, I don't want to be here. And the next thing you know, like as soon as I, hop on the treadmill, do a nice like hard run or something afterwards, I'm like, fuck, woo, damn, like
Yeah.
I could outrun 4 bears, 2 jackals, and a jaguar. Let's go.
Like it's nothing. I love it. Yeah, it's a phenomenal place, and I think again, it's a very humbling a humbling experience, a humbling place. And it's, if you have the right mindset, you just watch yourself change in so many ways. Because I wasn't, like you said, I was heavier growing up, and I, got called the fat kid or whatever the case may be. And now it's like night and day, and I still have trouble seeing myself as the person that I am now. But when it's all said and done, it's like I work hard, and the results show, and people see it, and it's like this is who I am, not who I think I'm supposed to be, or just not identifying myself with this kind of negative mentality. And like you said, it's hard. It's a struggle for me every day. Like damn near every minute, I'm having to reprogram and rewire that inner dialogue based off of something that happened ages ago, but still sticks with me, and you just have to work through it. But it's like, as much as you could believe that you are less than, it's still, important to kind of understand that yes, there's a possibility that you're not that thing. There's a possibility that you're the exact opposite. There's potential to believe that, yeah, I am great. And not just downplaying it just because, who you work to be may scare or intimidate somebody else, and you don't fit into a box anymore. You're you. So,
I think the best thing is, people need to understand, like, persistence in the gym, that's not the only place persistence lies. Like for me, that's
yeah,
where I focused on it. But anything you do, like going
yeah,
to the gym, for me, going every single day for 7 years, yeah, that deserves, like, hey dude, that's awesome, but it
hmm
doesn't deserve anything more than that. Okay,
right,
that doesn't, a lot of people look at it like, how do you, like, and just want to go and glorify it so much, and I tell them no, because you can do it too, not
right.
in the gym. Maybe that's not for you, but find something you're fucking passionate about and go
Go
for it.
for it.
I would,
Simple.
I decided to make a change in my life, and I decided to be persistent, that I wasn't going to give up. Anybody telling me, hey, if you give up, like my dad said, if you give up like a month, like your brother did after that, just let me know so I can stop paying for this. And
Right.
I said, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep doing this. And I've reaped the benefits from it, and I love it. And it's just a part of my life, man.
That's it. Once you accept that it's a lifestyle, I think, you're willing to put in the work and the journey. A lot of people are just like, yeah, I want to get abs, and I want to look big. I want to take my shirt off, or I want the ladies or the guys to look at me. And it's like, if that's all you're in it for, you're going to check out really quick because you're doing it
Good
for somebody
fucking
else.
luck, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good luck, because that takes persistence. You think you're going to be able to, run on the treadmill and then, do an ab workout for a month, and next thing you know, you got a 6-pack? Hell no. It
Yeah.
takes 3 months for you to see results,
Yep.
takes 6 months for your family to see results, and then 8 months, and then everyone else sees results. But then
Exactly.
once you build that foundation, you have it. You always have it. No matter if you take a break for a year and come back to it, you're able to build up muscle faster. It's called muscle memory.
Exactly.
And it's crazy because working out, being good, like having a good body, being in a fit shape, it's a
Yeah.
fucking roller coaster.
Yeah. Yeah, it
How
is.
many times, like, how hard it is just to eat a can of tuna and a stick of celery, like live off that for so long, like I was doing? Like,
It's a nightmare.
it fucking breaks out. You have your binge sessions, man. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
someone brings pizza around you. You're like, you fucking asshole. Like you have to like try and get out of the room as fast as possible, because as soon as that opens up, you smell that Domino's fucking oregano bread. You're tearing it open,
It's a
man.
wrap. It's a wrap, man.
Like,
It's
just have
true.
one piece. How about just someone gives you the everlasting juice to life, and you're like, just take a sip, don't drink it all.
Right.
And it's like, what?
It's like, what a waste.
It's like, I need to fold this. Is that one piece count if I take the whole pizza and fold it like a taco and then eat it that way?
Counting macros, fuck macros. Yeah, it's really a process, and I think a lot of it is mental. You know, I like those days when I could go in and lift like crazy, and I walk out, I'm like, shit. I was like, I have more energy than I usually do. And, you know, I lifted more than I usually could. And that just reminds me, it's like, all right, if you could do that in the gym, imagine what you're capable of just in life. You know, sometimes you're capable of more than what you think you are.
Yeah, who would have thought that if you decided to eat like a fish or you decided to eat like a stick of celery, you'd feel better afterwards than if you ate like a Twinkie or something? I would never would have thought.
Who would have thought?
All those years when I like my high school years, I was eating a bag of spicy nacho Doritos, and then I ran my first 2 weeks of the gym. I was running on a treadmill, sweating spicy nacho Dorito, dude. I have not eaten a Dorito since.
Jeez, I just brought some spicy nacho Doritos last night.
I can't. I remember the taste of how much I love them, but as soon as I smell any type of spicy nacho Dorito, I immediately get sick.
Really?
I mean, have you ever like gone all out on a food and then got really sick after you like tried to work out on it?
I'm trying to think if there's like something in particular that I have a big sweet tooth, I will say that, but like there's nothing that I'm repulsed by that I used to love, fortunately. And it's like, I don't know.
Cinnamon for me.
Cinnamon?
You know why?
Did you barf it up or something?
No, I got really, I don't drink at all.
Yeah.
Mostly because I look at alcohol as calories. So I'm like, nah, fuck that.
Yeah.
I ain't about that life, yo. I know my calorie intake. I know what I got to maintain, and alcohol ain't in the picture.
Right.
I look at my brother bought me Fireball, like a giant big bottle. Well, it really bought it for himself and decided he didn't like it. He got drunk after like a couple sips, and he's a couple years older than me. So this time I was probably, just starting the gym, probably my first year in. Okay. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm down pretty good, size and everything. And I'm like, I'm going to watch some TV. So I'm sipping it the whole time. I'm talking about the giant bottles. I killed the whole thing.
Yeah.
Dude, I killed the whole thing, I swear to you. And then I woke up on my bathroom floor and I was like, I've never felt like shit. Apparently I knocked myself out while taking a piss. I'll admit to it. I'm a fucking man. So I went the next day to the gym right in the morning, and I ran on the treadmill and sweated nothing but fucking cinnamon.
You deserve that.
Dude, I burned 1,600 calories, went home. You can never cook French toast around me. You can't do anything. I will leave the house.
Really?
I can't. My buddy's like, hey, you want to go to Denny's? I'm like, fuck Denny's. He's like, why are you going to say that about Denny's? I'm like, first of all, it sucks. Second of all, cinnamon.
Simple math.
I don't like Denny's because Theo Vaughn has a joke. He goes, the tables are pretty damn sticky. You never know when you go into a restaurant and it feels like you get stuck to the table.
Ah, yeah.
That's why I don't go to IHOP, even though they're the international house of pancake. It's the international house of getting your ass stuck to the table.
And it's a no thank you for me. Now that you say that, I don't know if I'm going to be able to walk in these places the same.
Yeah, try sitting down and then getting up when you want to get up. It doesn't happen.
Right.
The table allows you to get up.
Right. It's giving you a privilege. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Ocean City, Maryland originally.
Oh, no way.
Born and raised, yeah. I've only ventured out on like vacation, like Hawaii and stuff.
Okay. That's dope. I've been to Ocean City a couple of times. I think the last time I went was well over a decade, but yeah, it was a good time. I remember like the dolphins, the time that we went, there were dolphins migrating, so you could see them like in and out of the water heading south. It was like August.
Dude, I used to do jet skis for the summer for a couple of years. I did it for about 4 years.
Hmm.
I did this thing called the Jetivator as well. It's a little bit of like it's like those hoverboards and things that come out of the water. It's powered by a jet ski. I was the
Yeah.
guy that did that in Ocean City. I was the only one,
Uh-huh.
and it was crazy because we would get hammerhead sharks in our bay, like just
What?
near our riding area, and they're telling us not to like get in the water or let any renters fall off a jet ski because there's a
Yeah.
shark breeding in our area. And I'm like, well, shit. So it's like you have to kind of stay on top of that. And
Yeah.
then I remember going into the ocean and already knowing that sharks do kind of venture down here rarely sometimes.
Yeah.
And a fucking dolphin was right beside me, dude. I freaked
Oh.
the hell out. At this time, I was already on, it was around like, I was watching Jaws on television. That's all my
Yeah.
all time favorite movie. And
Uh-huh.
I saw that shit. Yo, you heard Jesus walk on water. I
Yeah.
fucking ran on that shit. I was out.
Oh man, I'm sure the dolphin was looking out for you though. That's
That's what I heard though. Like, cause I went to a shark museum in North Carolina or
okay.
South Carolina near Myrtle Beach. They had a giant shark exhibit,
Yep.
and they were letting us know like that dolphins are known as the bullies of the sea.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, why? And they're like, because sharks are afraid of dolphins because
They are.
dolphins roam in packs.
Yep. Yep.
And I'm like, that makes sense. And we think of dolphins as like being highly intellectual as well.
Yeah. They have a pack mentality and they do they can be pretty vicious, apparently. They're not always the nicest, but when it comes to humans, I think they're pretty they're aware. They're aware that we're like not a shark or another fish, so they usually do their best, I think, to kind of like I've heard stories where it's like, oh, I was stranded and the dolphins, they kind of hung around me to keep sharks away and all this other stuff. And I was like, oh, that's pretty dope. And you see Flipper, he's friendly. So,
I still like Free Willy or Shamu.
yeah, well, those suckers,
Sadly, he had to eat a motherfucker.
yeah, he had to prove a point. And you know what? Honestly, it's like more power to him because, the whole SeaWorld situation, it's like they're in captivity and they're probably mistreated. And it's like, yeah, well, you think about it. If you're a person and someone constantly pokes at you and prods you, after a while, you have your breaking point. And it's like, I'm not on display for everybody while you're fucking me up when no one else is looking. It's like, yeah, I'm going to have a reaction. So,
Yeah, you're locking them in somewhere. It's like imagine someone locked you in a cage and then they decided to hop in a tank with you and want you to, they want you to open up your mouth so you can place your body in there and
yeah,
not close down. That's like giving somebody like their favorite food and telling them not to chew or do anything. Just keep it in their mouth.
just deal. Yeah. Yeah. It's a situation. It's interesting. I think, yeah.
How did you get into starting a podcast? First of all, you have your podcast called the Bird Brain Podcast.
Yep.
Where did you come about this and why is it called the Bird Brain Podcast?
So I could start with a name. So the name came from Bird Brain Podcast. So when you think of birds, people have the misconception that birds are dumb. It's like, oh, you're a bird brain, so you're a dummy.
Depending on the bird, I think of a pigeon.
Yeah, right. You think of a pigeon or something like that. So I kind of took it a step further and I thought about it in terms of birds. When they are in an uncomfortable climate, they migrate to a better place. They usually migrate south when things are colder, or they know how to leave a situation that seems like it's a danger to their well-being. As humans, we don't always do that. We endure a lot of things that we shouldn't deal with. We tolerate a lot of things that we probably shouldn't deal with. We create a lot of shit that shouldn't be in our lives, and we just endure it. We constantly deal with it. So thinking about a bird, it's like find ways to stay elevated. See a situation from a bird's eye view, from an elevated perspective. If there's something weighing you down, just find a different way to kind of look at it so you're not as weighted by it as you typically would be. So that's where the bird brain came from.
Be the goose in the world. Be the goose.
Be the goose, man.
You know why? You know why I say goose or
Why?
geese? Because we have geese in like my local community, Ocean Pines.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. You've never seen a geese not give a fuck about a car. They will
Right.
walk right in front of your car, dude, and they will
Yeah.
sit there and fucking wait. Ron White has an amazing joke about it. Like, they could have flown over the fucking street. That's what they can do.
Yeah.
I swear to
can
God,
change.
I sat behind a woman that was waiting for all these little geese to go across the road.
Yeah.
Now they have a pack mentality. So one of them will stop and go back and wait for all of them to cross.
Yep.
Now they're all crossing. They're all like about to go over. And then you see the last little one go over. And the person, like, I don't know what happened, decided to honk or do something to get them along faster because we've been waiting there probably 10 minutes. They all fucking flew backwards exactly where they just came from, just flew right back to the water over the road. I was like, we just wasted 10 minutes of that shit. They walked and they flew back over. Like, I was so upset. I literally drove up next to her. I was like, that's why you just honk and go.
Yeah.
They will move if anything. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes they stand there, they literally just look at you. I've seen them get hit by cars, but it's like, we're tired of these things, honestly, at this point. But it's like they have that I don't give a shit mentality. They're just like, you can't fucking hit me.
Yeah.
Like, and they're aggressive too.
Yeah, they are. They have serious street cred out here. Like they don't fuck around. And like you said, they do travel in packs and they're not afraid to, come up to you and handle business if necessary. So yeah, I give them much respect.
I'm like, the safest part of our community is like during winter when they're not here because they have to fly south.
Yeah. See, they
And then
migrate.
sometimes like with how it's still kind of warm, even though we're heading into winter, I'm
Yeah.
like, they're still fucking here. Like, there's still terror on the streets. And my mom's just like, what are you talking about? There's no terror on the streets. You don't understand the amount of anguish I deal with from fucking birds.
It ain't safe out here.
I got attacked when I was little, man. I went to go feed one bread, and it was like off this like kind of like it was like a little bit of a channel. So I'm up on like the hilltop just throwing bread down. I freaking, where I was standing, I slipped and flew, like basically slip and slided all the way down into the water, and I got mercifully attacked. I had a bag of bread, bro, and I started getting ravaged near these things.
That's traumatizing.
Dude, I swear to God, I won't stop for a geese now. I don't care. He'll move. He'll learn how to fly if he doesn't know.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, I think my perspective in terms of birds, like in front of the podcast, was a little bit more friendlier, if you will. But yeah, they are vicious. They have a tendency to be vicious, but they know how to fly away.
Now, you say the elevated part of the bird brain. So what types of topics do you really kind of focus on?
So it's a hybrid, actually. So the podcast in itself is 2 parts. So Fridays, there are short horror stories that I've written and I narrate. And Mondays is all about like perspective. Just honestly, everything that I talk about on Monday episodes is something that I'm sure each person has dealt with. And for me, it's more about having a conversation and talking to everyone that's listening, and saying, this is what I've gone through and this is how I work through it. I hate the term self-help because everybody's a guru in that world. And for me, it's like, I cannot take the advice of somebody who's never experienced a lot of things. And I think a lot of times the people that are talking and giving suggestions and giving their 2 cents are speaking from a higher platform. For me, it's just like,
like you were saying, an elevated standpoint. You got to go through some shit before you can honestly give advice or introspection into the shit that you went through.
Exactly. It's like nothing I talk about is something that I'm removed from. Every episode that I've released has been something that I've personally experienced. I cannot talk about something that I have no knowledge in. And I think a lot of times with Instagram and everything like that, you kind of fall prey to these people that are just preaching the certain fixes to get from point A to point B. And it's like a person that's listening, they might be confused. It's like, well, how do I even get there? That doesn't make sense. They don't seem to equate. And the reality is because the person that's talking to you, they're telling you something that they have not experienced. They're giving you a solution to a situation that they never had to really go through hands-on. Um, and it becomes cyclical. So for me, it's like I just make sure everything that I talk about is honest, but also it kind of helps. If anything, someone walks away and is like, you know what, because of you, I see things a little bit different. And it's all about perspective, just providing a different perspective on a very common situation. For example, today was all about just chaos, creating or just putting down the shit, putting down the chaos, and realizing there are things in your life, situations in your life that you kind of welcome because you're used to having chaos. And I think a lot of times, people love the word busy because it gives them this sense of purpose. And it's like, what are you really busy with? What are you entertaining to just say that you're busy? What are you doing? Everybody's busy, but what are you doing that's actually productive? And not many people can answer that. And again, when we're bored, we find something to focus on or something to kind of, I guess, cultivate that's going to give us a problem to solve or fix, whether it's with a person, whether it's with a situation. We kind of entertain things that are trivial just because it kind of keeps our minds at work and it distracts us from things we could be taking care of, like ourselves. So, yeah, it's all about just seeing things a little bit different and, just kind of walking away with a more positive mindset, healthy positivity, nothing delusional. You can't be happy all the time. Otherwise you wouldn't know what happiness really is. And you wouldn't really appreciate those moments that are good. You got to go through some shit.
So what about horror do you really focus on in your podcast?
So my focus on horror. So basically right now it's called The Night Owl. That's the horror portion of the podcast. And my focus, I write and narrate these short horror stories. And yeah, it's just something that I personally enjoy doing. So I've kind of incorporated it into the podcast itself. And actually this Halloween, I'll be collaborating with a few other podcasts and, yeah, just making it a lot of fun. I'm excited about this particular episode because it's something I've never really done before. So it should be a good time.
What's weird is you say horror stories. So what types are we talking about? Are we talking about Edgar Allan Poe? Are we talking about Dracula? Are we talking Frankenstein?
Yeah, so the stories that I write, I'd say are more psychological thrillers. Maybe sometimes it's paranormal. Maybe a lot of times it's just like real life situations that are just creepy. Like a guy walking down the street and he seems normal, but it becomes this whole other thing.
Some M. Night Shyamalan shit.
Yeah, it's got more of a modern day feel to it because I personally like stories that kind of linger in the back of your head and sometimes are a little bit open ended. The thing about like horror movies, I'm a big horror movie fan, so I'm picky about my horror movies. And what I like the most are stories that don't really need or rely heavily on shock effect to like make a story good or make it, scary. It's nothing like a good horror story.
That's a lot of problems I have with horror movies nowadays, just because they all seem to be jump scares. There's no original story or content driven in it. They got a basis, you see some of them, but I haven't really seen a lot of very impactful ones like there has been back in the day. I think,
right.
We talk about movies, we talk about just pumping out movies like crazy. Some corporations that do superhero movies, they have a template that works.
Yep.
So when you have a template, the original template for a horror film was murder, psychopath, killer, a serial killer or some ghostly entity. And then it evolved into more like, let's say around the time maybe Poltergeist came out or Exorcist. You started seeing stuff that kind of was still in that realm, but diving off into new territory, demonic possession.
Yeah.
Demons throughout history have been a giant scare tactic for people. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to do anything bad because you'll get on the devil's side, and it's like,
right.
All right.
You go to the hot place.
And now you're looking at things like you see it's a social media app that kills you. Like that's original. That's something original. It might not be good,
Right.
but it's original.
It's kind of, I think what it is like every generation uses what is the most accessible or the most relevant. So back in the 80s, you figure, sex was a big thing, and there was still a mystique around sex and all that, which is why you had Nightmare on Elm Street, which is why Friday the 13th, those two movies, those two classics were so big, because in the 80s, everything was kind of like sexually driven, but it was still a taboo. And even the themes in those movies, it's like, there were certain archetypes that usually survived, and it was about the virgin. The virgin guy or girl always survived. If you were sexually promiscuous, you usually got murdered.
Because you're
And it was,
pure. It's just like Cabin
yeah.
in the Woods played that pretty perfectly. They had
Hmm.
like for the sacrifice to the gods.
Yeah.
That was a good concept on the amount of like kind of horror it brought. It brought everything from zombies. You never know what you were gonna get. Now I've
Yep.
seen a really good horror movie, but it's
Hmm.
not even horror movie. It's like a parody movie. Now we know about Scary Movie. Have you ever seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
No, I've never watched it, but I heard it was pretty good. It's not my type of movie. Although Shaun of the Dead I enjoyed. But yeah,
You
I've heard
would
about that one.
love this movie. It's about a bunch of college kids go on this like camping trip up into the
Okay.
woods, like just like
Uh-huh.
how every horror movie usually starts, bunch
Yeah.
of kids going out in somewhere where they're not supposed to get drunk and have a party. They run into a
Yep.
bunch of rednecks. So the whole
Okay.
beginning, you're noticing these rednecks that are kind of like they have this like, oh, I know where this is going to go. They're going to get murdered. They're going to kill the college kids. Nope,
Right.
dude. These
Plot twist.
college kids these college kids, I mean, one of them, the rednecks ended up saving one of their lives. And the rednecks are just idiots, basically. They're just
Right.
completely unaware of this. So all
Yeah.
the college kids think they kidnapped one of their friends, but
Hmm.
really they were helping her. And
Okay.
fucking, they start going there trying to kill them and get her back. And they all are killing themselves while trying to get the girl back. The dude's like chopping up logs at his cabin, and they just bought this summer home. This is what they call it, a summer home. It's like this cabin that was like it was for sale because someone like there was a ghastly murder in the house or something. And
Yeah.
so he's like this one dude's grabbing logs and throwing it in a wood chipper, and this one dude has a knife, and it's a college kid, and he runs up, and the dude bends down, the kid goes right into the fucking wood chipper.
Nice.
And the redneck comes up and goes, "Oh my god!" and like freaks out and grabs his legs and is trying. And like all the other college kids are looking at him doing this, and it looks like he's
Yeah.
shoving
He's
it
killing
into
him.
the.
That's awesome.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I've never.
it's a spin on horror, but it's not awesome for the college kids. One dude freaking ran into a fallen tree and got skewered.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a play on like just fucking college kids and just young adolescents in general, how we end up being we're what's the word I'm looking for? We're usually, certain things happen by the fate of our own hands. Like we
You can
create
kind
our
of
own
guess what's going to
destruction.
happen. You can
Yeah,
really predict in a lot of movies what's going to happen next. The best part about this movie
absolutely.
was you're constantly getting hit with left turns. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a little bit strange.
Right. Do you like horror movies? Is that like your thing or?
I really do enjoy horror movies. I like when it has an original story down to it. When it comes to, there has to be a lot of kind of factors that play. For example, we can look at so many things from an original story basis to the characters that are in it. Like if they put Chris Evans or like fucking Captain America or somebody into, like a brand new horror film, like something that hasn't been redone before, you're gonna be looking the whole time like it's Captain fucking America. Who is gonna kill Captain America?
Yeah, seriously, it's kind of hard to see some actors out of their thing, especially when they've made a name for themselves in terms of their career.
I mean, one of my favorite things, for example, Jaws, dude. You want to talk about a concept that got played originally, like was a fear for so many people back in the day? Jaws scared so many fucking people out of the water.
Yeah, and you never saw the full shark. Is like never reveal the monster. That's the most successful way to have a horror movie do well.
Like that movie is so badass. And then I remember after that, I think I saw the movie Deep Blue Sea or something with
Hmm.
Samuel Jackson. I
Yeah.
can't really remember what the name was, but the sharks were fucking smart,
Yeah. Yeah.
bruh.
It was that movie. It was Deep Blue Sea. That movie is pretty crazy. I don't like shark movies.
You don't want anything that is even closely showing a shark because you know that's
Yeah,
an actual thing that we can encounter in the world.
exactly.
Like
47
talk,
meters down.
yeah. Oh, dude. Oh my God. I'd rather read the book 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I
Yeah.
honestly, or 10,000 Leagues, whatever it is. I'd rather read that book than try and dive into the whole shark movie era. It's like you're turning it into something I can now visually pay attention to, and I don't like this. Like I saw Jaws in my neighbor's pool when I was hanging out at my buddy's house, and
Uh,
we were in this pool. All lights were off on a giant projection screen. You don't know the types of things and tricks your mind plays on you when you're all you hear is dun dun dun, and
yeah,
you're on an inner tube that's shaped like a fucking dolphin. Like it's already you're pissing any shark off in the area.
absolutely.
And my buddy's dad's just like, you know how ridiculous you look right now? Like I'm like no toes in the water, nothing. I'm like on top of the tube, like looking around constantly. And he's like, you're in a pool, man. I'm like, I know I'm in a pool. That's how scary it is.
Yeah, man. Jaws is I don't know if I've ever watched all of Jaws. It's just a different kind of stress that I'm not looking for.
You just see the shark and you're like, all right, no, I'm good.
Yeah, pass.
Well, what's one of your favorite horror movies?
The original Halloween and Jeepers Creepers. Those are like my top two, I think.
Okay, so the original Halloween. So do you like any of the new stuff that's coming out now? Like they're all talking about like going back, like it was before this movie or that movie. I'm like, now you're really running with it. Like it's Fast and Furious. It's we're gonna see Fast and Furious 40. Vin Diesel just loves wearing a tank top.
Right, right, right. I think the newer stuff. I love the most recent Halloween. I wasn't a fan of the Rob Zombie depiction of Halloween because again, the shock effect. I feel like the movies that Rob Zombie produced and created were just gory and like really over the top. And I was like, oh man, this doesn't lend itself to how creepy and how ominous the original Halloween was.
You're
So
telling me you didn't enjoy Rob Zombie House of a Thousand Corpses?
I did not. Nope.
What?
Yeah, not a
Dude,
fan.
I saw that movie when I was 14 years old in a bike shop.
Yeah, no.
I used to hang out as a kid at a bike shop, and this dude had a VHS player. So we're building bikes, and I'm watching Scarface, The Sopranos, all these old style. And he goes, "You ever seen Rob Zombie House with Thousand Corpses?" I was like, "I have actually never seen that movie in my entire life." And he's like, "Well, let me play it for you, dude." When he cuts the girl's dad's face off and wears it and goes up to her and says, "Who's your daddy?" I'm like, "Oh shit."
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go home now. I don't know if my mom's gonna let me back out for like a month or so. Just letting you know I'm not gonna be around for a while.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't dig it. The Strangers, I think, is good.
Yeah,
You ever see it?
that's when I saw The Strangers. It linked me a little bit because it came out around the same time The Purge came out.
Right. Yeah.
So it was like the same concept, like, killers, people doing some psychotic acts because they're like just mentally unstable or something like that. And it's a good concept, man. But I feel like you start seeing the same serial killer vibe thing over and over again. I mean, how many times can you produce a horror movie and then not include death or blood in it?
Right. Well, the differentiation between The Purge and The Strangers is like The Purge. There was an end goal. Like it was like, all right, these people are allowed to do whatever, raise hell for the next 24 hours. It was a day in the year. You're allowed to do this to kind of keep the population control down or whatever the case may be. With The Strangers, one of the things that really gave me goosebumps, and this is more realistic, is like, why are you doing this? And she's like, because you guys were home. Like to hear something like that, it's like, and think about it when you see on the news, there's a home invasion or something happens where things go sideways just because the person happened to be home. Like there's no rhyme or reason other than the fact that you were just, at the hand of bad luck.
I don't know if it's because every house I've ever lived in has had this, but either has a glass like thing on the door, like so you can see
Mhm.
who it is before you open it up, or
Yeah.
they have the little peephole like a hotel does. And I'm like, who the fuck is just opening the door? You don't notice that it's midnight and like this happens, like you get a knock on the door. If it's not Domino's and they don't shout out like, hey, I got your pizza or something. Like, I've talked to people that are pizza delivery people. I'm like, when you're delivering a pizza in the middle of the night, if someone, like, if it's a prank call or something, how many people actually come to the door and open it up at that time? He goes, dude, everyone thinks I'm going to murder them. Like, I'm not actually a Domino's delivery guy. And I was like, yeah, because if you're stoned, you forget. Next thing you know, you're watching a horror movie. You think it's been 4 hours. Next thing you know, it's only been 20 minutes and fucking Papa John's is at your door. Like, hey, you ordered a pizza with some breadsticks. You're like, oh my God, just go away. Don't kill me.
Right. I mean, I've never had that crazy experience, but I mean, even think about somebody impersonating a pizza man. You know what I mean? It's even that
That's
has some kind of realism to it, and it's creepy.
I can't even remember, but there was this horror movie where the guy killed the pizza delivery dude that was delivering the pizza, took his
Hmm.
clothes, and then delivered the pizza. And then when they opened up the door, he just started killing everybody.
Oh,
I was like,
really?
how do you fucking even know? Like, this is what I'm like. There's a mental health disorder where you think everybody in your life is basically replaced by an imposter. And I'm like,
Hmm.
that's what they're experiencing. Like, maybe they have some wit behind that. Like, hey, you're not my actual mom. What are you doing cooking me breakfast?
How do you know I like tomatoes? It's
It's funny
crazy.
because when you look at The Sixth Sense, that's a horror
Hmm.
movie. Like the part where I forgot, there was the scene where the dad was at his daughter's funeral and the mom wasn't crying, and they found a
Yeah.
videotape the kid found, and it was the
Hmm.
mom poisoning the daughter, and that's how
Yep.
she died, by pouring something. Like, that's like, can you believe that's fucking scary?
It is scary because it's like, again, you never know, and it's realism to it, and that's Munchausen syndrome by proxy is what it's called, where it's like you you kind of force your kid to think that they're sick, but it's like you're actually making them sick.
Well, you're trying to
Uh,
draw attention on yourself.
mm-hmm,
It's like you're doing
mm-hmm,
these weird crimes. Like, I think what scares me the most about a film or a horror movie, like, I don't get scared easily. I
right.
went to go see so many horror films in the theaters, and I'm sitting there and everyone else is like cuddled up, like, in a blanket and like, oh my God, this is so scary. I'm like, grow the fuck up. Like, this is just jump scares if you notice. But then what really
Right.
got me was when I was watching The Visit. I didn't really get scared until they started showing signs of mental disorders, where I was like, this is
Mm,
a real thing. That's what brought fear into me.
right. Yeah, The Visit is crazy. I remember that movie actually. It's things go left real quick.
Yeah, it's a
That was a
bunch of
scary one.
it's grandparents with mental disorders, and you find out they're not their actual grandparents. You're like, as soon as that happened, I stood up. I was like, I think I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, that's too much, because I know there's probably someone out there that has experienced something like that.
Yeah, to a degree, or it's like, you pretend that you are like elderly people who may have dementia or Alzheimer's, like you pretend that you're their kid, and it's like you just kind of take advantage of the situation, or
Well,
you move
there
into
was
their
a
house.
there was a giant spark in the 90s. The kids were a little bit afraid to bully, and like parents were afraid for their children, that
Hmm.
this was happening at school because of all these movies that were coming out, like Michael Myers, stuff that was original, but it was a concept that influenced in their life. Like, sometimes that kid you bully could turn out to be a psychopath, and that was always a big fear. Like, they always say, like, a
Yeah.
psychopath is somebody that was bullied or had a troubled past, like people picked on him and stuff.
Hmm.
it
Well,
it brings into a whole nother perspective.
right. I think it's more to it in terms of that. Like, there is when it comes to serial killers and stuff like that, there's usually there's stuff underlying. So, like, you could think about the kids that are picked on and what the climate looks like today, and you know, how crazy it is and with school like shootings and all that stuff. That's like an indication. Doesn't necessarily mean the kid is a psychopath. Yeah, there's probably some mental issues that aren't being addressed, but it kind of escalates to something more. But a person like, think about Michael Myers, is his story. He wasn't even picked on. You know, Rob Zombie, he portrayed him as that, but Michael Myers in the original movie, he was just some kid that went around killing. And, you know, with serial killers, a lot of times they start to exhibit certain abnormal patterns early on, where it's like they're cutting up animals, they're dissecting animals. They
When all
are
the
dissecting
neighborhood
stuffed
pets
animals.
go missing. When the neighborhood
Right.
pets go missing, you look at little Jimmy down the street who doesn't talk to anybody, he just goes in his house and lives in the basement.
Right. Where's your rabbit?
But it's funny, Mike Myers was, if you look at it from a psychology standpoint, was kind of abused because his dad was a drunk. His mom didn't really, cared about him, but wasn't really ever home, never stood up to his father. His dad would beat, him all the time. His sister didn't really give a shit about him. And it was just so much like he had so much going on in his life that like would be a lot of pressure for a kid, that on top of being like having these weird artistic things about you, such as building, like making masks or having this side, it created a bit of a dark side. Or was that always there?
Right. Right. It's sometimes I think it is latent. I mean, I have a degree in psychology, so it's like we've learned all this stuff in terms of like, abnormal behavior and all those things. Like it's everybody is a little quirky. We all have our quirks, and I think sometimes there's just a heavy emphasis on some things in comparison to someone else. So, again, with serial killers and things like that, there's usually a chemical process that's going on, and the aggression is a little bit more evident in who they are than something else. So it's all mental.
Now, where did you get this fascination for horror, though? Because when you were explaining to me before about your podcast, you were telling me it's like the meaning of bird brain, the whole concept of being enlightened, and we went talking about geese and all these fucking animals that are on the street that are ruining my day. But no,
Right.
where did the horror factor come in? Because you did a twist called Night Owl. So when it comes to Night Owl, that's a great concept just from the name of your podcast. So, props to you on that one. But with Night Owl, like being constantly alert, like a lot of people look at an owl, but there's wisdom, but there's also a weird factor on the fact that they can turn their head around in a way that not many people can. And there's a nocturnal effect.
Yep. It's, I mean, for me, it's like, I'm a night owl. So it's like, I stay up and I'm usually the most creative at night. And, I think the reason why I love that my podcast covers both, like, perspective and enlightenment, but also horror, is because it's a balance. I know me as an individual is like, basically I could talk about a lot of my experiences because I've been through things, and that's the darker side of life. Like, you go through things, but how do you create light out of it? Like, how do you make light of the situation? You get creative. And, for me, my imagination is pretty good. So it's, it kind of lends itself to me writing horror stories. And, like I said, I've always been into horror as a kid. So it's just, it's literally me. I'm literally those two worlds. It's like, just always working on myself, be a better individual. But it's like, I enjoy horror, and that's just what it is. What I mean? So
where do you find your stories from?
Oh man, it's, it's funny. My stories, literally, I can pull them out of thin air. It could be, I know one of my stories, it just came from this guy that I walked past on the beach. He was whistling, and I created this whole story from just him whistling as he was walking by me. There have been other stories that, like, I'll see something on the ground, or I'll see there's something that somebody's wearing in particular, and it just kind of like sparks this story or this idea in my head, and I'm like, all right, let's write something from that. So yeah, it literally comes from everything. There's no specific catalyst in most of the stories that I write. It's just literally whatever comes to mind. I write it.
It's funny because we pre-recorded, me and my buddy, a Halloween episode since we're not going to be able to hang out on Halloween. So it's going to be a special kind of edition, ending off kind of the season of season 2 and heading into season 3 on Halloween night. And it's funny. We're like, how would we create a horror film or a movie? And as we're just improvising like Mad Libs, we started to create a really good fucking movie. It's about an hour in. I'm like, I really want someone to make this movie. Like, I don't want to give too much of it away, but like in the beginning we're, you know, bullshitting around, and then you start to see this story develop when you really start sticking in there. And it's got all the factors, and it leaves you kind of on like a weird twist as well, which I think is always kind of needed at least in newer horror films coming out, because I feel like it always ends the same exact way. Someone dies, or everyone dies, or the killer dies. I'm like, how many times can you play that same tune over and over again until people are like, all right, let me get something fucking new?
Yeah, something unique. That's why I like Jeepers Creepers. I thought it was such a simple movie, you know, driving down the road and things just go crazy from there. And it was so simple. It was such a simple movie, but very creepy, very kind of campy. It just really kind of created that vibe, that ominous vibe that makes a good horror movie. So it's one of my favorites.
If you saw anything recently that you're kind of thinking about making a kind of a story about, do you have any ideas?
Anything recently? There was.
I'd like to collaborate with you, because let me tell you something. I just got back from the gym a little bit ago, and there was a guy, and he suffered from a little bit of it seemed like he was a little bit off. He suffers from probably a mental disorder, but he did not have any boundaries. And he had, I don't want to say, you know, what they say is retard strength, but he literally was benching 2 plates on each side. And like, he did it for a lot of reps, and I was like, damn, this guy's like really fucking strong. And you could tell he kind of walked a little bit goofy, and he was a little bit off. But then he went to go bench again, and it dropped right on him. And I was like, and he kept doing dangerous shit. I'm like, what is happening? Like, someone needs to write a story about this guy, you know?
You're right.
The unbreakable machine or something, because he's like beating the shit out. Like, he had a 85-pound weight in one hand, and he's not a big guy, but he just lifts it like it was like nothing at first, does 5 reps, then he goes up one more time, and the thing just drops straight on his chest. I'm like, holy shit. Like, wow, this guy's a freaking Iron Man or something. Like, he's going to end up getting his heart replaced with a machine.
Right. I mean, that is interesting to see. And I tell people all the time, is like, it's not always the biggest person in the gym that's the strongest. You know, it's literally like, there are some dudes that just look bigger, and in reality, they don't lift all that much. And then you have the smaller dudes that are putting weight up like it's nothing.
Dude,
and,
they call me the Ant-Man at my gym, because I'm really, really like kind of like leaned out, like really, really kind of small, but I can leg press and do all these things that are like 400 pounds. I'm like, yeah, like I'm pretty strong. Like, I can bench press him as 200, and I'm only 135.
Yeah, that's good, man.
So people are like, oh, you're the Ant-Man. I'm like, it's a muscle though. Like, if I constantly work on it all the time, obviously it's going to increase. If you ask me to freaking, lift a jet ski or do something like this, like, that's a whole nother muscle group that I would not be able to really acquire.
Right. It'd be a whole different process. Yeah, it's all training. I mean, for me, you figure I'm 229, 230, and you know, my lifts nowadays are pretty moderate. Like, I don't go crazy. In the past, I was lifting pretty heavy. Like, I would just do it. You know, in my 20s, it was a big time for me to just really test my strength and just, you know, really push myself and see what I was capable of. And yeah, it was fun. But now I'm just like, nah, I don't have time for that.
I think it's pretty crazy because I started podcasting with people that do like horror podcast, like an audiobook, just telling a story. And I
Hmm.
like the concept of it too. It invokes kind of old literature such as like Dracula and Frankenstein in a newer, revamped way too. And you start to
Yeah.
kind of find like, I've podcasts with people that do one on like Tales from the Crypt, that old show.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that you look at from like a standpoint of, let's say, a millennial or some kid nowadays, and they're like, well, that's old shit, like, but it's still
Hmm.
so good. It doesn't matter what the
Yeah.
quality of the film was and even how bad the acting was. I mean, just what shakes me sometimes is Jack Nicholson and fucking The Shining, dude.
The Shining. Yeah.
Little pig, let me in. I'm like, oh my God, like this man is on so many drugs right now. I can't tell if he's being legit.
Yeah, that's The Shining is a creepy movie too. That's a whole like psychological, just ooh, is that's a psychological playground, and I think everything was done so well and so intricately to make the whole process and the whole experience just creepy and uncomfortable to sit through. You know.
It's crazy when you hear something like The Exorcist, or I can't remember if it was The Exorcist, where the girl was shoving a cross inside of her,
Yep.
what? Yeah, that
Hmm.
whole thing. And
Yeah.
she was fucked up after that movie.
Yeah,
She
I
was
was just
calling
talking about that.
she was literally like could not associate, like it was so hard because she was literally calling her mother, telling her mom, which would be her grandma, that you're gonna suck cocks in hell.
Hmm.
Like you're
Yeah.
hearing that and in front of, like, you're a young age doing that, like, and saying that's your own mother,
Yeah. She went through a
dude.
lot in that process. Like yeah, because they didn't have special effects and stuff like that. So like her voice to get as raspy as it needed to be, she was like drinking whiskey, I believe, and smoking cigarettes. And she was like 12. I think she was a young kid, and she was subjected to a lot. So like her process, Linda Blair, I remember hearing that she was pretty messed up for a while from that movie.
What did you think about the movie Krampus?
Oh, Krampus? That
Yeah.
ah, it was a lot of good actors in it, and it was dark. I don't think uh I don't think I watched it the whole way through because I was like, I can't really take it serious.
Because it's Santa
It's
Claus.
Yeah, it was just like I was like, this is kind of ridiculous. I know the old folktale about Krampus and like his whole thing. Apparently he used to like steal kids away, or it was like a demon or something ridiculous and crazy. But the actual movie, I was like, it's not real enough for me to be worried about. Like I'm not gonna be worried about seeing Santa Claus trying to break into my house and he has deer hooves and all this stuff. So yeah.
I found horror movies, I like them, I enjoy them, but I find that I like more of a theatrical scene, like being in a theater and witnessing it.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of my favorites, like, a lot of what John Cusack does, The Raven. I think it was
Okay.
room number 401 or something like that, where the room was like nobody could make it past a certain time because weird shit would
Yeah.
start happening. That
Yeah.
was a whole mind. I love the movies that make your mind go through so many twists and turns that you end up at the start like, I didn't even the gun hasn't even gone off yet.
Right. Yeah, 1408 is the name of that movie. That's a
Dude,
good one.
thank you for. I'm gonna look that up because that's something I need to rewatch. Because I was watching that movie and I was like, "What is happening right now?" Like, there's just so
Yeah.
much shit going on that, like, it's taking your mind. Like, you basically just have to buckle in and pray to God you get through it.
Yeah, it's that one is that's a good movie. If you like John Cusack, there's another movie called Identity that he's in, and that's a good like psychological mind fuck, and you're along for a ride, and it's good, it's creepy, it's dark, and it's worth. I actually that's one of my top favorite movies, period. It's a good movie.
What would you say for like horror films coming out? You think they're going to get better? You think they're going to get worse? You think, the whole culture? Because obviously, Halloween's a big thing for some people. Like I love it because the colors of the trees change. It feels like there's
Yep.
spookiness in the air, but it feels
Yeah.
like with a lot of like stuff like about the poison candy myth, all these types of things that came out, like that whole thing was just bullshit, right?
No, it wasn't actually. The poison candy?
No, no. Look, yes, it was. All right, I'm about to level.
No.
No, hold on a second. I'm about to level you on some information, dude. I
Okay.
podcasted specifically on this thing. There was
Uh-huh.
only one reported case about it, about a father that poisoned his kid for life insurance. Then he
Right,
tried to
yeah.
drop other snacks in the neighborhood. That was only one case. There was people were saying that shit was happening everywhere. Kids were biting candy, then taking a razor blade and saying, "I found this in it." There has only been,
Right.
in this whole entire history of poison candy, there has only been 3 cases. One, a kid mixed up Fun Dip for heroin.
Uh-huh.
2, a woman actually put rat poison and all this shit in those fucking homemade treats on Halloween, the little popcorn balls. First of all, don't
Uh-huh.
accept anything homemade unless you know the person, unless you know the neighbor. And
Yeah.
then the other one was the guy in Houston in like 2006 that tried poisoning his kid. But those are the only cases. The rest of it was all bullshit. It was a way for parents just to it was the same thing with the AIDS epidemic where it was happening, where they were talking about they were sticking AIDS infected needles in syringes and putting it under gas pumps, so people would go and pump their gas and they'd get injected with AIDS, like the whole kind
Mm.
of hinting at Eazy-E and Suge Knight, all that that was around the same time period. It wasn't it was a giant overblown scare over one incident. It wasn't an actual thing.
Oh, right. No, I'm not saying it was like an actual like epidemic where it was actually happening, but I was saying in terms of the story, there actually being a real story behind the urban legend and how it came about was because this guy actually poisoned his kid for life insurance money and that whole jazz. So yeah, that story was true, but in terms of like everybody being freaked out, all you need is one, and you just need you just need the story to travel to scare the hell out of people. But yeah, a lot of urban legends come from a twist on a very real situation, and people
That's
just
where
take
they
it
get
from
the
there.
influence from it. I mean, they're storytellers too. What's funny is that they
Hmm.
tried to ruin fucking Halloween. My whole
Yeah.
Halloween as a kid, I didn't get any Kit Kats, no fucking peanut butter cups, because my parents would come home and be like, "We need to search your candy." I'm like sitting there like, "Are you like you would learn tricks on your way home? You would decide like I'm gonna pick out all the good pieces, put them in your pocket, or they
Hmm.
would eat them on the way home. And the next, I didn't get any. They're like, "Oh, empty out your pockets." You're like, "Damn it."
You really went through it. Halloween's my favorite time of year. I for like being on the East Coast, I love when the leaves changed and it gets a little cooler and it's just a different, like you said, there's something in the air. It's something awesome about the month of October that just, puts you in that mood. So I love Halloween for that aspect. Like I don't do the dressing up and Halloween parties and all of that, but I do
I,
like the
that's what it's turned into, though. I used to love
yeah.
Halloween because it was a cool thing. It actually helped people interact and get to know the community. I mean, you get to
Hmm.
go and knock on doors, say please and thank you. It was a good formative thing for kids, but now it turns into a bunch of people just dressing up slutty and going to
Right.
parties. And now, like, you don't really see too much trick or treating happen a lot anymore. Like, some communities in my state have banned it. You're not allowed to trick or treat in this area. You're not allowed to give out candy in this area. It's like,
Oh.
what's happening? Like nobody, like kids are going to lose this. I feel like with such the scares of how you're seeing all this stuff on news and how people are playing kind of like people are crazy, people are this, you're going to start seeing stuff like this become very, very dwindling in numbers.
Hmm. And I think it kind of eliminates social interaction too. Like that's kind of fallen by the wayside with technology. And it's like, yeah, trick or treating was a way, like you said, to kind of, get out there, meet your neighbors and have a sense of community, do your thing, have some fun, have a little spookiness going on. And now that it's being taken away, it just eliminates that camaraderie, that ability to just gather.
there was literally a month after that one movie theater shooting where people were
Hmm.
afraid to go to the movies thinking it was going to happen to them next.
Hell yeah. I mean, it's realistic again. That was just a random ass movie theater. People were going to watch a movie and this is what happens. It kind of lets you know it's like anywhere, unfortunately, anywhere has the possibility. Like there's no real rhyme or reason sometimes. It's just again, like the strangers. You just happen to be home. You know, these people went to this movie theater and a movie theater they've probably gone to 1,000,008 times. And this just happened to be the day that things just popped off. And it's like, that is kind of scary. Where it's like, you can't even go to just enjoy a movie without having to worry about what's going to happen if you're going to make it through the actual movie. You know what I mean? That's
Like
crazy.
I've podcasted with someone who owns a haunted house, and she was telling me like she's trying to find ways to incorporate more people to go to it, such as like,
Uh-huh.
instead of being like families or couples, more make it for like kids my age and younger
Hmm.
kids to go, and they want to actually scare them, not just treat them, they like to go all out with it. And there's this haunted type of culture, like these people that like wait all year for this season, and
Hmm.
it's crazy because like you start seeing movies and places that do it way out of control where they make you actually eat blood and they do all these things. You have to sign a waiver, and it's like everybody's like literally on edge the whole time. Like I don't mind if you're gonna freak me out. I've been to some
Right.
haunted houses. There's one specifically you have to pay like $50 for. It's like a state away from me in Delaware, and
Okay.
I've been to it. It was definitely fun as hell. It was me and a couple of my buddies, but I remember I got into a confrontation with someone because they were around my age and they were dressed up in a ghillie suit, so I couldn't tell, like who it was under it. He kept grabbing my fucking hat and throwing it. Kept grabbing it. I had to kept going, pick it up. I said, dude, if you do it one more time, I'm gonna snap. And
Yeah.
like he just looked at me and goes, "Oh, you're gonna snap," and then grabs my hat. And I swear to God, I've never clocked somebody so fast in the jaw. I literally was like, "I'm sorry, but like this is getting annoying." I asked him so many times to please stop, and I'm like, "But that might have been like an overreaction on my part, but it was
Right.
also like it shows you the type of commitment, but really how far someone can go in a role position where they totally lose the just the kindness or the respect of others. Like they can
Right.
scare the shit out of you, make you pee yourself, and that's funny to them. Yeah, I get that's basically the idea, but also like being able to like grab somebody, push them on the ground just because you say that, oh, you're not allowed to touch me. No, 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 no. That doesn't happen like that.
Yeah, that's not okay. I think it oversteps boundaries and like you said, a mutual respect. It's supposed to be something that's enjoyable, scary, but like you shouldn't be harassed. Like I think there's a line that should be drawn between like harassment and actually doing your job to kind of, get the experience or give the experience that people are looking for to be scared. It's like, no, I shouldn't have to get into an altercation at a haunted house because some guy keeps fucking with me. It's like, no, that's completely deviating from what I'm here for.
Dude,
You're just being a dick.
I got a really good horror idea I just thought of that I want you to do a podcast on. So here's the
Okay,
concept. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
And if you need any actors to play in it, I will fucking do it because this is good. This is good. This is like one of those 1 o'clock in the morning thoughts that you get where you write that shit down the next morning. You're like, what the hell was I talking about?
Right.
But it's imagine a haunted like horror like kind of maze like a
Hmm.
house in a way, but the guy went out of the way to get death row inmates,
Oh,
like actual people, as like a community service type thing. Like instead of picking up trash on the side of the street, you can get your hour in by acting up in this house as horror monsters and stuff and seeing how fucking horrible that would be.
I just got chills. That's creepy, dude.
Can you imagine a dude that's like, killed, like massacred a whole entire like family, and then he's in the house
Mm.
like dressed up in a bunny suit, and you're just like, oh, look at this fucking guy, and just snaps your neck. You're like, oh God, he killed Billy. It's like, you're in my house now, bitch.
Yeah, that's kind of creepy. I think that would be actually a cool concept. I did do a horror one story. I forget when I released this one, but it was about like a haunted. It was probably around October of last year. But basically a haunted house. You know, people go through it and things kind of transpire from there. But that concept is kind of nuts. Like, you know, strictly inmates. But do the people that are going, do they know that these are former inmates or
No, you're going there
oh
clueless.
oh that's terrible.
First of all,
That's
you know
dark.
how many people would be signing up to go to a haunted house if they knew that there was death row inmates there? You'd have to be like, I just lost my family. I have nothing left to live for. I'll be more than
Hmm.
happy to go to your haunted house. Or like you could take that same example and use the same one. Like the people that knock and do surveys that go around and it's like survey a bunch of people in the area. How many times do you
Hmm.
answer in that fucking survey?
Right, right. Yeah, that's twisted. That would make a good story.
I got another story for you. Look at this. I'm fucking tossing out gold here. Ready? Imagine a bunch of Jehovah's Witnesses that were
Uh-huh.
serial killers. And if you didn't buy a Bible, they just like killed your family. They came back.
Oh, that's crazy. I mean, that would definitely that would raise some eyebrows in the community, but it's a crazy concept. You know, people going
Just
door to door and just like picking people off.
bashing your head in with a Bible. The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ. Like, dude, stop beating me with God's word.
Right, right, right.
It's got to sink in one way.
Yeah. Did you ever see Children of the Corn?
Children of the Corn, yes.
Okay. I never
What
saw
was
it.
weird was I saw that, and then I saw Children of I saw what is it? God, what is that baseball movie? Ah,
Baseball
damn
movie.
it! It's with the angels that were, or the
An-
ghosts that were in the field.
Angels in the Outfield.
Yeah, that's what it was. Where they built the corn maze, and all these baseball players that were dead were coming back.
Yeah, Angels in the Outfield. It's like a family movie, right?
I saw that, and the whole time I was watching it, I was like, I just keep thinking in this movie that it's going to be like Children of the Corn. Like, there's just a bunch of little kids that are come out and just start murdering everybody. Like, you just built a baseball field and expected these ghost players to come out. Like that, if that's not a mental insanity thing, like, come on now.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. What are you gonna do for Halloween?
Probably nothing, to be honest
Hmm.
with you. I like it, but like it's all kind of like banned in my area. And it's like I'm not going to go to a party because I don't really feel like dealing with people. And at the same
Hmm.
time, I don't have any kids. Like that's the only reason for me that I would want to have a kid is just so I can get Halloween candy. I dress them up as like an egg and I'd be like dressed up in a chicken suit and then have like a leash on him. I actually have a little nephew and I was like, can I take him trick or treating just to pick up chicks? Yeah, you get it, my chicken costume reference. And then
Uh-huh.
pick up chicks and also get a bunch of candy. Like like children at that age, like they're your workhorse. Just go up there and bring me back some Kit Kats. That's all I want. If they don't have Kit Kats, then we're toilet paper in this house later.
Right. Do your job.
What are you doing for Halloween?
Actually, I'll be working a haunted house. There's this one family, they do this haunted house kind of situation, and they have like a little maze that the neighborhood goes to. So I'll be working that again this year. I was planning initially to just stay home and watch some horror movies, but I was like, I'll be out and about, you know, chill with people for a little bit, and then that'd be it.
I'll
But
never
yeah.
forget in my town when I was a kid, they had a haunted house at a dentist that was in the area.
Hmm.
And I went in there and it was actually really scary. Like at least for me as a kid.
Mm.
Then at the ending, instead of like I'm thinking I'm gonna get these awesome ass thing of candy because they had candy at the end. Dude, it was a bunch of floss.
Of course.
I was so pissed. I wanted to go back in there and beat the crap out of everyone. I was like, no, 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 no. Like people were taking things during the haunted house out of your trick or treating bag, and they were taking the candy out. Like this is mine, and I'm like, hey, that's my last Kit Kat. My mom took the rest. I will freaking annihilate you right here, right now.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
I really like horror. I love the season for it. I love Christmas time. I just love it that we have these seasons that really feels like it's in the air for it. You know what I
I
mean?
think it's a good time. I think in terms of just kind of creating that, like I said, that atmosphere and making things a little creepy. I think it's dope.
If you had to kind of make one horror movie, what would you base it on?
Oh, good question. Huh.
Would you do a Psycho Killer? Would you do some type of old school classic, you know?
I don't know. I think I would do yeah, I think it's something that's simple but something that's scary. So yeah, probably like a, Psycho Killer, or ghost stories, they're hit or miss. Like, you got to really make a good ghost story. So I try my hand at that, but overall I think yeah, something on those lines. Hang on, it's a leaf blower outside my window.
I'm about to say, you sound like there's like a 50 million haunted cattle outside your house.
It's a chainsaw. It's like somebody's cutting up somebody outside.
That's what I'm saying. Like, imagine how many people get killed on Halloween. You think it's an act.
Yeah. Oh man, that's been my biggest fear. Or like when you go to those mazes, those haunted mazes, and the guys running around with a chainsaw, and it's like, is it a real chainsaw or is the chain off? It's like, one of those situations where it's like, was that guy for real or was he joking? And it's like, you're in the middle of a cornfield, what if he just decides to chop your body up and throw you into the cornfield? It'll be a while before somebody finds you.
Dude, so I got this crazy little story. I
Mhm.
remember it was Halloween night. I was at my grandparents' house. I was in I think my brother's room. I was on the top bunk and my brother was just away.
Mhm.
You would think he was hanging out with some friends. So I was the only one up there that weekend.
Okay.
And everyone's, my grandparents went to bed. I'm just sitting there. It's like midnight or something. They live in the countryside.
Yeah.
So it's Milford, Delaware. There's houses beside us, not that far, but a good football field beside us. But behind, like where they live in the country, it is a dominant black population.
Okay.
It is, I mean, they literally built their own school that I'm pretty sure is not part of the education system. Like they
Wow.
stole Ronald McDonald from the McDonald's up in actual, like in like the popular part of town. And
Mhm.
they just brought it out here and put it on a park bench in front of this school. But I mean, nicest people, they're all kind of wear farm gear and stuff. But the weirdest thing was, you would get the people that would ride the ATVs, all these things at like the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But there was a club that was behind my grandparents' house that was a bunch of trailer park homes. They were just all mashed up side by side. They cut it open so they could all lead into different things. And I remember there at midnight, I'm hearing all this music playing, and I just hear, and it's Halloween, keep in mind. All you hear is bop, 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 and it's 3 gunshots.
Ooh.
And I'm like, oh shit, like what just happened? And then I kept in my mind, oh, it's Halloween. It's probably like some type of music or some type of scary thing they're playing. Dude, no, not even 30 minutes later, cars are booking it out of there. Cop cars are coming in. It's crazy. I'm like, did someone just die? And like
Wow.
next thing you know, we found out that someone got shot, and we're like, holy shit, like we didn't even understand because we just thought it was Halloween. I swear to you, dude, my grandpa's like, this is what, like he was like normalized by it. He's like, yeah, someone got shot. I'm like, what is happening? I'm
Wow.
from Ocean City, Maryland. Like, I don't ever, I'm 15 years old. I don't know what this is.
Yeah. That's not a welcoming experience or something worth remembering. It's
I was
crazy.
like, next time I don't want to go to my grandparents' house. But my grandfather, he loves this season because this is like his favorite time. I mean, he eats a lot of candy, hides it. He's not allowed to have it.
Yeah.
So he loves this season because it gives him an excuse to actually go buy a bag of candy. Like, well, it's the season, and my grandma's just like, you eat candy secretly all the fucking time.
Right. Now he
Like
has
you have
reason.
it. He tapes it under the kitchen table and shit. Like smart ways of doing it too. Like to the point where like I go and reach for a pot that's hanging up top and there's a Reese's cup inside of it. I'm like, the fuck is this doing here?
That's crazy, man. That's your grandpa. He's the man. He sounds like the dude to hang out with for sure.
It's crazy because when did candy actually get linked to like just Halloween in general? Like before wasn't it they would always give out like some type of like present or some type of gift. I thought like the Halloween concept was nobody would walk the streets and you'd put pumpkins on your doorstep to ward off evil spirits because it was known
Oh,
when the dead walked the streets.
yeah. So maybe trick or treat. That's what that comes from.
But like the whole reason was you would dress up in costumes to blend in with these spooky spirits. But when did it
Ah.
become so much like what spirit is dressed up as a slutty nurse?
Well, maybe someone there was a former nurse who died and she was a little bit promiscuous, so it's like the slutty nurse came from there. That's interesting though.
Oh,
I like the that origin story in terms of like I vaguely remember hearing that you dress up as the dead to ward them off. And it's like if you see pictures from back in the day, like the 30s and everything in Halloween, their costumes were kind of creepy, like really, really unnerving. Just like makes you feel uneasy kind of deal.
that was is popular in Latin culture. It's why they have Day of the Dead.
Yep.
And it's supposed to be like you dress up to blend in with these spirits that would come back from the past or come back from the beyond, wherever. And then, like, if you look at Irish folklore of the basis of Halloween,
Yeah.
was after a guy that learned how to trick the devil, saying, I bet you I can climb up this tree faster than you. And the devil's like, okay, I'll take that bet. Next thing you know, the devil climbed up the tree and he's like, I win. And then dude carved a symbol in the tree so the devil couldn't get off the tree. He was stuck
Oh.
there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then eventually the devil made a deal with him, like I'll give you this deal or whatever, and he goes, okay, but you have to let me live
Yeah.
forever. So he ended up making him live forever as like a demon spirit, and he would walk the streets, and the people in the Irish land or whatever. I could be getting this folklore a little bit mixed up, but like they would hide and they would set stuff out on the doorstep and stuff to keep away this guy who would just come to your door, knock on it, you weren't supposed to answer.
Dude, that's an awesome concept too. Like I didn't know that. I didn't know that though, because I've heard like stories about making deals with the devil. There were I forget which musician, but there was like talks about meeting the devil at the crossroads, and it's like I'll do if you make me a famous musician or you give me the talent that I need, then I'm forever indebted to you. And it's like the devil always wants his due. He grants wishes, but he always
Well,
wants.
he gives you 10 years.
Oh, 10 years.
Yeah, he gives you 10 years. When you go to a crossroads, it's not always the devil, it's usually a demon, but you sell your soul for whatever you want, money, fame, glory. But 10 years comes, that debt gets paid. Either
Oh,
way, you're going to have hellhounds chase after you. You're going to have something come and get you that's going to claim your life.
oh wow.
Folklore is fucking awesome, man. I love it, dude. I
Yeah.
it's basically horror movies that are today. If anybody loves horror and you decide to look up anything folkloric, the stories from the Disney princesses, the with the Conan brothers or whoever, the Brothers Grimm, I think it's what it's called.
Yep.
They decided to take those stories and show you the dark, blunt version of it. It makes you really think on the whole concept of like, what did I just watch?
That's nuts. You're opening up my my mind basically and my knowledge of folklore and Halloween in general, because some of those stories I've never heard of, and I think they're pretty cool.
Have you ever heard of the original Disney princess stories?
Oh yeah, they're dark.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. Like the old folklore, like the stuff from like the 18th century and shit that was like back in like the way day, like it was in so many different cultures, like Irish culture. Look that stuff up because there is some crazy dark, like, I mean, actual spooky stuff to it.
Oh man, that's crazy. I'm gonna have to check it out. That's the best.
Well, you know what? It's there's always old goodies for sure. Tales from the Crypt, whatever you
Hmm.
want to say. There's always something you can watch and get a whole nother perspective on the stuff we get nowadays. I feel like everything usually gets flushed back. I'm hoping with horror films and stuff, they're not going to stick on the same concept, but find something original, but also don't play the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, yeah. One can
Because you
only
can
hope.
eat a Kit Kat so many times,
Right.
and eventually you're like, all right, I need to change it up a little bit.
Of course, I need a different kind of Kit Kat.
Well, hey, man, it's been awesome having you on the podcast. And I really want to give you this moment at the end to kind of plug your stuff so people can find your awesome content.
Oh, thank you. Well, first off, I appreciate you having me. This has been awesome, and I love talking with new people. But yeah, for the listeners out there, check out the Bird Brain podcast. There's an episode every Monday and Friday. Mondays is all about, your health and wellness perspective. And then Fridays, if you dig horror, just tune in. Yeah, we're on Instagram, Twitter. And if you guys are familiar with the Discord, check out the Podcast Junkie community. There's a bunch of podcasts there. So, yeah, you should check that out too, buddy. It's a good community to get familiar with, and a lot of people with interesting stories.
I've dabbled in Discord a little bit,
Yeah.
but I'm like, this is too complicated for my brain because there's so many groups and side things. It's like Reddit. Once you start going down the rabbit hole, you really get scared.
Oh, it gets crazy. Reddit is one of those things I had to check out of because I'm like, this is like information overload, or it's just like too much. So I don't really go on Reddit.
Yeah, stay off some social media sites, people. It's not always good because you're going to find something you might not want to see or you can't unsee.
Exactly. It's just a real burnout, and sometimes that rabbit hole is just not good to go into.
Well, thanks so much for being on this episode Out of the Blank, and stay tuned for our next episode.
Thanks, buddy.